You're welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television, where just yesterday, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Mr. Timi Silva, announced the extension or the proposal to extend the subsidy regime by the federal government. And this, he says, is to give all stakeholders time to ensure that implementation is carried out in a manner that will ensure all necessary modalities are in place to cushion the effect of the PMS subsidy removal in line with prevailing economic realities. And of course, in response to this, we have seen the suspension of the protests that have already been scheduled by the NLC. What are the implications of this decision? We have energy expert and group chairman of International Energy Services Limited, Dr. Diron Fawibe, sharing his thoughts with us. Good to speak with you, Dr. Fawibe. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you so much. So the signing of the Petroleum Industry Act, came with a lot of applause and expectations. A lot of people were happy, saying that this would be a new dawn for the industry. Does this bring a cloud of disappointment, or is it just delayed excitement?
I will say point blank that many people will be disappointed with the latest development about the effect of subsidy removal or not removal on the PIA. And I can tell you that a lot of people, especially those who ordinarily have distrust of government, will be saying that, yes, government has come again, and they have given an alibi or excuse, for not going full throttle for the implementation of the PIA. But this is the reality, and I guess we have to make the best of the situation in which we find ourselves as regards the PIA. Government has given the reason, for suspension, and I believe it's just a section of the law that affects the subsidy and so on. I don't expect that this will be the totality of PIA that will be suspended, and the section that deals with subsidy will have to be carefully considered by National Assembly, and amendment will be made for restoration, during the next administration, because the federal government has now said that the removal of subsidy will have to be passed on to the next administration. That's after the election of 2023. And hopefully the issue will not be as serious as we are currently having, because if we are able to get the refineries that are under rehabilitation through, and Dangote refinery comes on stream, perhaps I expect that the volume of imported fuel for which occasion the payment of subsidy will be substantially reduced. It may not completely eliminate, but certainly by the time the refineries come on stream, we'll only be importing, very low level of volume of products. And if also the security agencies are able to curtail the smuggling of petrol out of the country, we may be able to stem the tide, come 2023, before the 2023 year runs out.
Okay, interesting you brought in the issue of the refineries, because that seems to be, the hope. And good enough, Dangote has said that by the third quarter of this year, they should begin, refining, and then Nigerians should be able to access that. So, because there's no contention that everybody believes that subsidy removal is a desirable policy, but it just seems the price and the timing. So from your perspective now, you think the right time would be at least when some of the refineries in the country are functional?
Yes, that has been the heart of the problem of subsidy or deregulation, or what we call at times appropriate pricing of fuel. And this matter has been in the public domain for about 4 decades. I remember we've been talking about a shortage of fuel, for Nigerian economies since the 70s. I remember there was a Oputa panel in 1975, and I don't want to bore you viewers, with details of what has transpired between that period and now. But the fundamental issue is the supply of products to the economy. And that will have to come through the refineries. If, for example, we are producing enough, through our refineries, there will be no reason for us to be importing fuel, and the issue of subsidy will not be there. The subsidy was occasioned by importation of fuel, and a lot of businesses, businesses in quotes, will go on around importation of fuel and the payment of subsidy thereto. So until we are able to solve the problem of supply of fuel through our local facilities, then the issue of importation will still be there, and which in effect will occasion the payment of subsidy. And I believe by the end of 2023, yes, if the Dangote refinery comes on stream by third quarter, fourth quarter of this year, and the Port Harcourt refinery that is undergoing rehabilitation, and I believe federal government will now have to put a lot of pressure on the contractor, working on Port Harcourt refinery. I don't believe the Warri and Kaduna have started, work yet. But if the Port Harcourt refinery, which is supposed to be about 210,000 barrels per day, the 150 and the 60 combined, if we are able to get it on stream, if ever it's only about 70% capacity, then it will throw up a lot of products into the economy. And I understand, this Dangote refinery is about 650,000 barrels per day. That's the nameplate. But if it's operating, say, about 500,000 barrels per day, and we combine it with 70% of Port Harcourt refinery, if we are supplying about 600,000 barrels per day of fuel, or 650,000 barrels per day of fuel through our refineries, the amount of the volume of products we'll be importing, which will occasion subsidy, will be considerably less. So that will be the solution, because it's the issue of supply of products to the economy that has caused this problem of subsidy. And I think we have to change the narrative between the end of this year and next year, God willing.
All right, Dr. Fawibe, there's some questions that just, bog my mind when we talk about, the local production, such as, are there parameters that have been put in place to ensure that the price will actually be less when, these products are being produced or refined in the country? For instance, overhead costs. What is going to be the price of crude to Dangote, for instance? What are some of the rules or guidelines, that will be used, or template that will be used for pricing? Because we have NNLG in Nigeria, but I mean the cost or the price of gas is the same as, when they export. So is there an assurance so that we don't get there and then we have, some other things coming up when we are now having locally refined products?
Well, the pricing of locally refined products will be a total kettle of fish. And I think that the government should start to consider what will be the appropriate pricing mechanism, for products supplied locally. The basic difference is this: when we import fuel, from abroad, we will be talking about the price of the fuel at the ex-refinery or ex-supply depot or facility in foreign countries. They take Rotterdam, for example, or take New York, or wherever the products will be coming from. And you cannot prevent the refiners, in those countries from are pricing their products based on the price of crude oil in the world market and the processing fee and all whatnot. And then we also have to ship the products to Nigeria. If we are refining locally, for example, the freight that is associated with imported fuel will not be there. Also, the handling expenses before the products are deposited in the various depots will not be there. You know, the refineries here will be supplying, yes, through the distribution channel that have been put in place, and certainly there will be substantial difference in prices. Now, it doesn't mean that the price of products supplied locally will be on the same level of the regulated price that we are having now. We used to talk about the import parity of pricing of products. So we now have to look at market forces. Now, it depends on what government is going to do in terms of the supply of crude oil to the refineries. One of the heads of state said at one time, the local refiners will have to pay arm's length price for the crude oil being supplied. But if it is the wish of government to give them discount, so be it. That will be part of what you can pass on to Nigerian consumers. But if Dangote, for example, is paying the price of international price, of course,
then
he
we
will
don't
have to reflect
exactly
the price of products.
the refined products to be lower. All right, thank you so much, Dr. General Fawibe, energy expert and group chairman of International Energy Services Limited. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on the program today. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and you too. Yes, bye-bye.
After the break, AFEX Commodities Market comes up to give us details of the market that ended in the week yesterday. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television.